Welcome everybody and happy Tuesday. Hope everyone is doing well out there in Facebook Live land. I'm going to give everyone just a couple of seconds to get signed on. I see lots of people popping on right now, so welcome. Hope everyone's having a great day. I don't know if this is your spring break or last week was your spring break or maybe next week is your spring break. Whichever one it is, happy spring break to you. And let's just, be very optimistic that this year, spring break only lasts 1 week and it doesn't last 6 months like it did in 2020. So very optimistic about that. So welcome, good morning. So many familiar faces and familiar names hopping on right now. I'm glad you are here for this great and wonderful topic. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started this morning. We have a lot of new people that have never joined one of our Facebook Live 10 at 10 webinars. So the way this works is that you get to participate with me on your chat screen right there. You can make comments or ask questions, or you can do the little heart or the thumbs up or smiley face sign showing that you're interacting. And so because of that, this makes it an instructor-led training with childcare licensing. Yay! So you can get those instructor-led hours for your annual training requirements, the 20% that is required by licensing. So that always works out well. You don't need to put your name in here. You don't need to tell me that you're here unless you just want to. The way this works is at the end of the workshop today, I will post a link for a worksheet. Those of you that are wanting a training hour for today's webinar, you will complete the worksheet at the end of the webinar today. There is a $5 fee to complete the worksheet and to get that certificate. And then once you do that, I will email you your certificate. So if you're just here to participate and to watch and listen, it's free. You don't have to pay anything, so that's awesome. But if you are needing that certificate of completion, like I said, the worksheet will be available for you at the end of today's webinar. So that's kind of how it works right there. And I see everyone kind of popping in and saying hello and everything. We are going to talk about the 2021 Child Care Minimum Standard updates that were finally released from Health and Human Services last week. So yay! I don't think I've ever been so excited to see some minimum standards come out. I did want to make a little visual today that this is a non-COVID related webinar. So I'm going to have this visual throughout the webinar today. If a topic or conversation comes up that is COVID related, you're going to get my non-COVID webinar because we want to make sure that we keep everyone on track and just talk about our standards this morning. So there you go. However, while we're still waiting on lots of people to get logged in, I do have a couple of housekeeping items, just kind of topics of interest that I wanted to clear up really quick before we get to our 2021 minimum standards. Some of you may be aware that on Friday, the CDC did release some new guidelines for child care centers that are opening and remaining open during the pandemic. So if you haven't had a chance to visit the CDC website to read the updated guidelines, you might want to do that. I will probably do a special webinar next week to go over the new CDC guidelines with everyone. So just it's a lot too, by the way. So make sure you've got plenty of time to focus on that because it is a lot of material. But we'll probably plan something for next week to go over those new CDC guidelines. It's really interesting to me, here in Texas, we must be very blessed. We know we're blessed being here in Texas, that our child care minimum standards are pretty awesome and pretty well written. And I think that when you look over the new CDC guidelines, you're going to realize how awesome our minimum standards are, because 99% of what they released on Friday is exactly what we've been doing here in Texas forever. All right, not just pandemic related, but just normal health and safety practices We're rocking it here in Texas, and we've always known that. We've always known that we've got really good standards. But you're not going to see a lot of surprises with the new CDC stuff that is out there. But watch my Facebook, watch my website, and we'll plan something for next week to go over those new CDC rules that is out there. Yes, I see a question up there about the minimum standards that we're going to talk about today. If you go to download the entire set of minimum standards from licensing's website, don't do it. Don't hit that print button yet, okay? It is still the December 2020 copy. They have not put the March 2021 version out there. We have what is in the new standards, and we're going to talk about that today, but the complete 250-page copy of the book is not out there yet. So be very careful. Make sure that you scroll down and look at that date before you hit that print button, or you're going to print something you regret. All right. And I have that on my agenda to talk about once we get to the standards. But yes, that is not out there. And I checked it right before we logged on today, and it's not there yet. One more again, this is a non-COVID webinar, but I just wanted to touch on a couple of hot topics before we get on to standards. Y'all know that here in Texas, our mask mandate has been lifted, as well as lots of other executive orders from Governor Abbott. That does not apply to our emergency order that we are under by the Commissioner of Health and Human Services. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that we are still, as of March 16th at 10 a.m., subject to change, we are still under emergency orders from the Commissioner of Health and Human Services. So all of the expectations that we've been following for 9 months now, 9+ months, you should still be doing. I've seen a lot of stuff on other Facebook pages that I'm kind of cringing because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people are making comments about allowing parents in the building and allowing ancillary programs into the building. And I'm like, guys, not yet, not yet, all right? We are still under emergency orders, okay? Now we are expecting some guidance from Health and Human Services any day now, but it's not here yet, okay? Also, I'm sure y'all have gotten a lot of the emails about vaccine rollout. I know that vaccines are still very hard to come by. Just be patient. What I have experienced is that if you go to the CVS, the pharmacy, the CVS store, if you go to their website like early in the morning, like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, you might get an appointment, all right? Every appointment that I've scheduled has been through CVS.com, and I've literally done it at 5 o'clock in the morning, all right? That's how I got my appointment. So, but there's also a lot of other resources in your area. I was actually at the grocery store pharmacy yesterday down where I live, picking up a prescription, and the pharmacist was on the phone calling people, I guess, on their list. They had gotten a big shipment of vaccines in. So, you might have to do a little bit of research and a little bit of digging, but they are out there. Be patient, all right? There you go. And last thing I wanted to clear up as we go into our conversation on licensing, and this is licensing related. I've gotten several phone calls and messages from people asking me about ratio changes. There seems to be some rumors out there about ratio changes. Nothing's true, all right? So guys, there's been absolutely no talk from Child Care Licensing about ratio changes. They definitely have not proposed any ratio changes. It would have to go through the whole process in order for that to happen. So whoever is making these comments out there about ratio changes, y'all need to check your source, all right? Now, I have, mentioned to a lot of you that we are expecting our legislators to file a bill that would impact ratios. We've been expecting that for the last 2 years. We are in the middle of our legislative session as we speak. Once again, I checked this morning before we went live here on Facebook, and as of today, nothing has been filed in regards to ratio. They still have time, all right? And also kind of be on the lookout on Facebook because I plan on doing a legislative update in the very near future. I usually like to do that towards the end of March, beginning of April, because we've got a pretty good book of bills that we get a good picture of what we're looking at by that point. Anything sooner than that, it's too premature, all right? But by the end of March, 1st of April, we have a pretty good idea of what our legislators are planning on trying to do to our industry. And so we need to know what to support, what to push back on. So be on the lookout for that. All right, let's talk about our updated minimum standards. That's what you're all here for. Yay, and like I said earlier, I've never been so excited to see some updated standards. All of this that we're going to talk about today is from Senate Bill 952, all right? Senate Bill 952 that was passed in our 2019 legislature here in Texas is what all of this stuff is coming from. So we've been talking about these new standards for 2 years now. We've known this was coming, all right? So none of this is news to us, and there's really no surprises in what we're going to talk about right now. All right. I just really quick, Michelle's got a comment right here on Facebook. Just to be clear, we're still under the emergency order with the lower ratios. The emergency order from the Commissioner of Health and Human Services did not mention ratios at all. The lower ratios came from the governor's protocol. The recommendations from the governor's office that were released last summer, that's where the lower ratios were recommended. But the emergency orders that we're under with Health and Human Services does not address ratios, all right? So just to be clear on that, all right? So and give me a call or shoot me an email individually if you want to talk about that or get more information. All right, so one of your worksheet questions for those of you that are wanting a training hour for today is going to be all of the new standards that we're going to talk about today. Where did they originate from? Senate Bill 952 that was passed back in 2019. So once again, none of this is a big surprise to us. So the first thing that we'll talk about is there's a couple of definitions that were added and redefined at the beginning of the child care minimum standards. Again, nothing that is earth-shattering here, all right? There's really only two things in this that may change, your operation, but in my opinion, it's going to be changed for the good. Now, when we talk about 746-123, about terms and definitions, since 2016, child care regulations has done an amazing job of cleaning up a lot of terms and definitions. And the intent behind this is to do a better job at getting everybody on the same page, to do a better job of eliminating these interpretation issues that we have dealt with for over 20 years when it comes to regulations. And I think they've done an amazing job. So high five to Health and Human Services and child care regulations for continuing to try to clean things up and to get everyone on the same page. So I want to give some kudos to them right there. And a lot of what you're going to see changing with terms and definition is just that. It's a couple of adjectives and pronouns and one or two words here and there that is just getting everything on the same page, all right? And we're not going to talk about all of those little bitty changes. We're really just going to talk about, the stuff that's going to have an impact or change your operation at this point, all right? So there you go. All right, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is under terms and definitions. So once again, 746-123, number 37. Number 37 is going to go over the definition of natural environment, all right? And basically they're just adding the word in there, settings that are natural or typical for all children of the same age, regardless of their ability or disability. So, for example, a natural environment for learning social skills is with a play group of peers. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but you're going to notice that there's a lot of wording that is changed that is catering towards children with special needs and disabilities. Again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but when we look at the bills that have been filed in our legislature so far this year, there's been a lot about special needs, and so I think that's going to be a big focus in the coming year. So and they're kind of laying the groundwork in this, all right? They're kind of laying the groundwork, so that's why I wanted to point that out. All right, here's the first really big change that we're seeing in the updated minimum standards, and this is number 39 under 746.123, and it's the definition of moderate physical activity. And physical activity that is moderate is levels of activity for a child that are at an intensified faster than a slower walk, but still allows the child to talk easily, all right? Moderate physical activity that increases the child's heart rate and breathing rate. So basically any physical activity that you do in your program is going to be at a minimum moderate. All right, anything more than just sitting down in a chair or sitting down at circle time, anything that has any type of movement that's getting the body moving and getting the heart pumping, you're going to consider that a moderate physical activity. All right, and then 40 is going to be the definition of vigorous physical activity. And that is repetitive physical movement for a child that uses large muscle groups, causing the child to breathe rapidly, and only enabling the child to speak in short phrases. All right. Typically, the child's heart rate is substantially increased, and the child is likely to be sweating while engaged in vigorous physical activity. So again, pretty common sense. I want you to think about yourself when you're on the treadmill, when you're on the cycle, when you're out on the track walking, with your friends or your neighbors, when you get to that point where you can't carry on a conversation or complete, talk in a complete sentence, that's vigorous physical activity, all right? This is when the heart is pumping really good and you're starting to burn those calories and you're getting a good workout. So we're going to have a combination of both moderate and vigorous physical activity in our classrooms with these new standards. So that's pretty awesome. And you know what I'm I'm excited about all of this, but what I'm really, really excited about is that, even as adults, we need more physical activity in our life. And because everything we do in the classroom, we are active participants, all right? We have to be role models for the children. Your adults in the classroom are going to be getting more vigorous physical activity with the children. So that's going to be pretty awesome right there, all right? Now, we're going to talk about policies here in just a second right here. But if you have not updated your job descriptions and your employee handbook to include participating in moderate or vigorous physical activities with the children, that's going to be a very, very important update for your job descriptions and your employee handbook. Because again, your employees need to be active participants, all right? They need to be role models. So we're going to expect these activities with them as well, all right? So there you go. On number 47, under 746.123, when it talks about school-age children, previously it just said a child who is 5 years of age and older, but it's going to add in there that is enrolled in or completed kindergarten, all right? So again, just making it clearly defined what is a school-age child. You're going to see this in a couple of times too, and again, I can see what's going on here. They're laying the groundwork for some other things to come, and we'll talk about that in our legislative update, all right? Don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much today. All right, 48 is a big one, all right? Number 48 is screen time activity, an activity during which a child views media content on a cell or mobile phone, tablet, computer, television, video, film, or DVD. All right. So basically anything, any device that has an image on it, all right, is considered screen time. And they've gone in here with this definition and specifically added the cell phone, the mobile phone, the tablet, because that's the electronic devices that most programs are using. So when we get to activities here in just a little bit, you know, we really got to think outside of the box and be very, very careful what screen time we're using in the classroom. And I know a lot of you are using tablets to do attendance tracking and children checking in and parent communication, and all that's fine, all right? All that is fine. You just got to be very careful of when the child is looking at it, okay, and which children are looking at it. So we want to be careful with that. And I've got a couple of other things to say about that once we get to it. Very important additions right here. When we talk about the definition of screen time does not include video chatting with the child's family, all right? And you know, children using screen time to assist with their special needs or their therapy. So if you have a therapist that comes in and they're working with that child's special need or disability and they're using a screen, that's not going to count towards their screen time. The video chatting with the child's family caught my attention. I found that one to be interesting. I'm not familiar with anyone that is doing this with the child. I mean, we're doing a lot of video chatting with parent-teacher conferences with the teacher and the family, you know, right now. But as far as the child being involved in this video chatting, you know, I'm not, you know, familiar with a lot of people doing that, and it kind of raises the question of why would you be doing that? And I hope it's not because the child is having a behavior and you're trying to threaten or punish or shame that child by getting their parent on a video chat and having the parent try to counsel the child's behavior on a video chat. I hope that's not what is happening, all right? You know, so we'll probably, I'm going to look into that a little bit deeper, and we'll talk about that in future cases. I do see, you know, a comment, CPS cases. Yes, that I have seen, all right? That I have seen where they're checking in on the child with CPS cases, those type of things right there, all right? Oh yeah, a family being overseas, a family being in the military, traveling for work. Yeah, I think that's good, you know, so that they can have that connection. I just want to make sure, again, we're not doing it as a form of punishment or discipline. That right there kind of scares me right there, all right? Very good. You know, as always, anytime I do a review of the child care minimum standards, you know, I always like to remind people to read the helpful information boxes. The helpful information boxes have a lot of really good stuff in them. So, you know, and same thing with this update, they've added some really good information in the helpful information boxes. So once again, when we talk about, you know, media content, they're elaborating a little bit more into media content, includes digital and live videos, animations, photos, games, internet searches, etc. All right, so, you know, I know a lot of times people are pulling up pictures, kind of like in the old days we used to have flashcards, you know, or visuals that we used to hold up for the kids, but now people want to do it on a tablet, all right? That will count as screen time. So let's go back to the original stuff that we've done years ago. It does go on to say that media content does not include electronic sign-in sheets, daily rosters, or schedules displayed on a smart board. So, you know, we've already kind of addressed that. All right. All right, under your operational policies, so 746-501, you are now going to be required to have a policy on indoor and outdoor physical activities. All right, so basically, what is your policy on the promotion of indoor and outdoor physical activity that is consistent with the child care minimum standards? It needs to include the benefits of physical activity and outdoor play, the duration of physical activity at your operation, both indoor and outdoor, the types of physical activity that you're going to engage the children in, the setting that this is going to take place, recommendation for clothing that the children need to wear to be able to effectively participate in physical activity. That one's interesting, all right? And a plan to ensure that children are getting physical activity when weather is not cooperating with us, all right? And all of these things need to be included in there. Now, don't worry, guess what? I've already done it for you, all right? So if you go to my website, timthetrainer.com, click on Documents, I have a sample policy on the promotion of indoor and outdoor physical activities. It's in a Word document, so you can download this, you can change whatever you want, make it personalized for your school, but I've already done a lot of the heavy work for you, all right, to help you get this policy in place. You're going to have to make some changes, okay, so you can't cut and paste exactly what I've done because, you know, your accommodations for providing physical activity when weather does not permit, you know, how you're going to do this and where you're going to do this is going to be different for each individual program, all right? Some of you may have a gym, some of you may have a large indoor space, some of you may not have either of those, and you're going to do it in your classroom, all right? So, you know, some of these things are going to be specific to your program. You'll need to make sure that you do that. And then the clothing, you know, I don't know, I think I did a pretty decent job on it, but y'all know that for, again, the last 2 years, I've been showing y'all this book and showing y'all this book and recommending that you get a copy of it. You're actually going to see in the updated minimum standards, child care licensing is referring to this book multiple times. You'll see them referring to this book. So again, you're going to see where a lot of this came from. This policy that I drafted, I pretty much pieced together from this book. All right, I kind of took some components here and there and pieced them together. And so the Caring for Our Children, the National Health and Safety Performance Standards for Early Care and Education Programs, Volume 4. I got mine off of Amazon. If you want the nice pretty book, you can also get this entire book online if you don't want to pay the $60, $75, however much it was. All right, so there you go. Same thing under terms and definitions, just kind of some clarification. Under the information on vaccine preventable diseases, they just changed a couple of little words there. Nothing really has changed with the expectation. There is just some wording on information on vaccine preventable disease guidelines rather than what is your policy, but it's what is your policy and here's information on it. I mainly wanted to just bring this up because I know that with the COVID vaccines that are out, you know, a big topic of conversation is, you know, are you going to make this mandatory? You're not going to make it mandatory. What are these policies going to look like? You know, well, we've already been required to have a vaccine preventable disease policy. You're just going to update your current vaccine preventable disease policy with the COVID information. Now, I'm not sure how many of you caught Texas Workforce Commission's webinar last week on policy changes due to the pandemic. It was really good. You can actually watch it on their website. Be very, very careful making this mandatory because that's a very, very slippery slope and you're opening yourself up to a whole lot of issues. Once the dust kind of settles and we get a lot of solid information on this, I'm going to do a webinar just on this particular topic, all right? But there you go. I'm just kind of reading a couple of the comments that are being posted right here. Oh, Elizabeth. Yes. Oh, Elizabeth, thank you so much for getting me back on track. Yeah, you know, two things. When we were talking about the rumors about the ratios, I think, number one, Elizabeth, you're right. A lot of people are looking at the recommended ratios in this book and they're freaking out. And then the other thing that I've seen on different Facebook pages that people are posting pictures of the Texas Rising Star ratios and getting this confused with licensing, and they're two completely different animals. So yeah, I think you're right there. What is the Texas Workforce Commission? What is the name of it? Just go to their archives. I don't know the exact name, but it was something about pandemic-related policies. It was just on last week, and you should be able to find that. All right. All right, let's talk about the big one. The big changes that you're going to see in your minimum standards. And like I said, you want to make sure that not only do you have this policy in your parent handbook for your parents to know the promotion of indoor and outdoor physical activities, but you also want to update your employee handbook and your job descriptions. All right, so there you go. Oh yeah, don't freak out, Michelle, it's okay, you got this. All right, so what written activity plans must your caregivers follow? So we've always had requirements on written activity plans. Really the only thing that they're changing here is the physical activity requirements. Everything else is pretty much the same with a couple of words changed here and there, all right? You'll notice under 746-2203, it's going to talk about make sure that your activity plan has the relevant group of children that plan is designed for. Oh, thank you, Courtney. That's it. Courtney got it. Texas 100% reopening. Now I remember. You triggered my brain. Good job. That's the name of the Texas Workforce Commission webinar. There you go. Is all of this effective now? They're going to give us technical assistance for the first few months of the new standards, and so we do have that time period. We always have some time period to get familiar with the new rules before they start citing us. So right now we're in our technical assistance phase. All right. Again, your activity plan must be written to include all children in care, regardless of their special needs. All right. So under 746-2205, once again, identify the group that the activity plan is designed for and the date. All right. So I really want y'all to pay attention to 746-2205 number 1. All right. List the date that the activity plan is designed for. This is a very commonly cited standard, all right? And I think that now that these words have changed, it's going to be even a bigger cited standard. Make sure you've got a good system in place that your activity plans, lesson plans, calendar, whatever you call it in your world, is current, all right? So every Friday, at the end of the day, have a good system in place that you take the old lesson plan down, you put the new one up. All right, or however that looks in your world right there. But now that we see under 746-2205 A1, identify the group that the activity plan is designed for and list the dates. All right, it's always been in there, but the wording has changed a little bit. We want to make sure that we stay current on that. All right, all right. So it's going to talk about under screen time, under B as in boy, under 746-2205. A written activity plan may include one or more screen time activities as long as they comply with the rules in these standards, and we'll get to those next. All right. All right. Here's the big stuff. If anything is going to rock your world with these updated minimum standards, here it is. All right. And I, again, am super excited about this. This is good stuff right here. But your activity plan must include, and this is under 746-2206, all right? Okay, y'all are just going to have to listen for the page numbers, okay? I can't talk and type at the same time, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. I need to hire a secretary to type while I talk, but I can't type and talk at the same time, sorry. So y'all are just going to have to listen and kind of follow along right there. All right, so under your activities and activity plans, you must have a minimum of 2 daily opportunities for outdoor play when weather permits, that the child uses both small and large muscles. So the big change right here is that before it just said daily morning and afternoon opportunities for outdoor play. Now they are specifically saying a minimum of 2 daily opportunities for outdoor play, weather permitting, that the child uses both large and small muscles. Now at this point in time, you still get to define weather permits within your program. All right, child care licensing or child care regulations, that's their new name. Child care regulations does not define weather permits. All right, there's a lot of factors that you have to look at here. Do you have shade? Do you not have shade? What part of the state are you in? What are the environmental factors? There are a lot of different factors that you have to look at to define weather permits. At this point in time, you still get to define that. You just need to have it in your policies, okay? Now, y'all might have noticed last fall in one of the surveys that was sent out by Child Care Regulations, one of the questions that they asked us was, would you like to see clarification on weather permits? All right, so that kind of leads me to believe that they are laying the groundwork for having a clear definition, or first off, just a definition, all right, of weather permits. Now, I think that's going to be tricky for them because there's so many factors that are involved. But when we get our 2022 standards, wouldn't surprise me if we see something here about weather permits. And y'all know that child care licensing is required to do a comprehensive review of the minimum standards every 6 years. Last time that happened was 2016. So our next comprehensive review of the standards is going to be 2022. All right. Amanda, I'm going to get to that. Yes, you can. Just to answer your question, yes, you can count your outdoor play as vigorous or moderate physical activity. And yeah, we're going to get to that. Shonda is asking, what if you were open 8 to 2:30? Again, y'all are being very anxious today. Y'all are jumping ahead too. Shonda, I'm going to get to that question as well. You get to prorate your outdoor time if you're only a part-time program. And that's under the helpful information box here in a couple of pages. All right. So for an infant birth through 12 months, their outdoor play is going to be the amount of time that the child is able to tolerate. All right. So the amount of time that the child is able to tolerate is going to be for your infant, your birth through 17 months. So I'm reading a comment or a question by Tracy. Does the activity plans need to detail, for example, what specific art process? As far as licensing is concerned, if you kind of read through here, it's just going to tell you, kind of what are the child-initiated activities, the adult-initiated activities. How detailed you want your activity plan is going to be up to you. All right. Now, if you're a Texas Rising Star program, yeah, you need to be pretty detailed in that. If you're not Texas Rising Star, as long as you're meeting, what's on 746-2206, you're fine. I like and I encourage your activity plans to be detailed because, I tell teachers all the time, your lesson plan or your activity plan is your blueprint. It's your roadmap for success. All right. People tend to want to look at lesson plans and activity plans as a burden, but in reality, they are your secret to success, all right? Because they're going to, tell the teacher exactly how their day needs to go, and I like them, all right? I just did a training on understanding cognitive development, and I also did a training on the power of play, and we talked about this, the importance of a well-written lesson plan, and that it's not a burden, it is a tool. It is a tool. All right, let's get back on subject right here. So infants, birth through 12 months, your outdoor play is going to be based on how much can that individual child tolerate being outside. All right. Now, for your infants 13 months through 17 months, your toddlers and your pre-K children, so basically everyone 13 months and older, then they need a minimum of 60 minutes of outdoor play. All right, 60 minutes per day. So most of us probably do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon. Kind of how we've done it for 30 plus years now, all right? But again, they've given us a very specific time now, all right? They've never done that in the past. It's been in the helpful information box, but it's never actually been in the standards, okay? So you want to have 60 minutes of outdoor play. Now, when you get into 746, 2206, if someone could type that in for me, that would be helpful. 746.2206 2A, all right, is where we're at now. A balance of active and quiet play that incorporates group and individual activities, both indoors and outdoors, and it must include a minimum of 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous active play for toddlers. Thank you. 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous active play for toddlers, and a minimum of 90 minutes for moderate to vigorous active play for pre-kindergarten age children. Okay? So, and remember, a toddler is defined as, 18 to 36 months. All right, so you may call them a 2-year-old. Licensing calls them a toddler. So for your 2-year-old group, 60 minutes of physical activity each day. Once they turn 3, okay, 90 minutes of physical activity, both moderate and vigorous, a day. All right, and again, when we get to the helpful information box, you'll be able to see that you can count the 60 minutes of outdoor play towards their physical activity. So basically, your toddlers, your 2-year-olds, as long as you're doing 30 minutes of outdoor play in the morning, 30 minutes of outdoor play in the afternoon that include moderate to vigorous physical activity, you're good. Okay? You're in compliance with both standards. For your 3-year-olds and your 4-year-olds, they have to have 90 minutes of moderate to vigorous active play. They're getting 60 minutes of outdoor play, so typically 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon is what we typically do. So because they get 60 minutes of outdoor play, but you're required to do 90 minutes of physical activity for your 3 and 4-year-olds, you're going to need to add an additional 30 minutes of physical activity to that activity plan for your 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds on up, all right? So this is going to be one of the big adjustments that you're going to have to make, all right? So, whether you do 15 minutes of yoga in the morning and 15 minutes of Pilates in the afternoon to get that additional 30 minutes, or 15-minute dance party every morning, and 15 minutes of age-appropriate exercises in the afternoon in the classroom, whatever works best for your program. But it's going to be your 3 and 4-year-olds that are going to have the biggest adjustment, because you're going to have to add that additional 30 minutes of physical activity plus the 60 minutes of outside time to get the 90 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity. All right, so there you go. The other big adjustment that you're going to have to make here, all right, is on the days that you're not able to go outside. Okay, so the days that you're not able to go outside due to weather, then you will need to have 90 minutes of physical activity throughout the day. Okay, so a total of 90 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity, whether you're indoors or outdoors. My suggestion to you is to come up with a rainy day box, all right, or a binder that is full of spontaneous physical activities that you can do on rainy days, so that you don't have to do a lot of planning, and you don't have the teachers that come back and say, well, I didn't know it was going to rain today. I didn't have time to plan all of these additional physical activities. All right, come up with a nice binder, rainy day box, whatever you want to call it in your world, to where they've got these at their fingertips. All right, so there you go. So yes, for all age groups when weather permits. So I'll go ahead and repeat this for you all again. Your infant's birth through 12 months, their outdoor time is going to be based on what they can tolerate. All right, for your 13 months and older, then they need a total of 60 minutes of outdoor play, both morning and afternoon. So, like I said, normally 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, all right? And then on top of that, 90 minutes of physical activity, but you can count the 60 minutes of outdoor play into your 90 minutes of physical activity. Couple of resources for you, and if someone could type this into the chat screen for me, that would be very helpful, all right? USDA.gov. All right, so the USDA.gov website is a wonderful website to not only help you with nutrition and menu planning and recipes. I mean, you could spend an entire week on that website. It's so awesome right there. But also, thank you, Jody, gold star for Jody. Also, with the USDA.gov, they have a whole section of their website that is dedicated to physical activities and physical activities that you can do in your licensed child care facility, physical activities that you can do at home. Wonderful, wonderful resource to help you out with meeting those physical activity needs. Or, my other suggestion for you, think back to your childhood. And what were some of your favorite physical activities that you did as a child? You know, some of those backyard games that we would go out and play in the summer and in the afternoon. Now, make sure they're age appropriate, make sure that they're safe, make sure they're not violating any other minimum standard right here. But I bet if we just reflect on our own childhood, we can come up with a lot of really good, you know, physical activities. All right, so underneath, you know, 746-2206, once again, your helpful information box is your best friend. They got some really good stuff in here. So basically just clarification of a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about right there. It does talk about you can divide the total minutes of outdoor play into shorter time periods rather than taking them out for an hour. We don't do that. You know, and again, you can adjust your schedule based on what is weather permits. All right. Once again, if you have to cancel or alter your outdoor, you know, activities due to weather permits, you need to make sure you're getting that physical activity, you know, within the classroom. So that's basically what it's going to address right there. All right. Let's talk about 746-2207 now, and that is your screen time. You can still, this has not changed any, you cannot use screen time for children under the age of 2. So your infants, you know, your toddlers 18 to 24 months, no screen time for them. No ifs, ands, or buts. I get a lot of people that call me and they email me and they're like, hey, I want to use screen time in my infant room. Is it okay? No. Okay, before you even finish your sentence, the answer is going to be no. Okay, so no screen time for those infants right there. All right, for your children over the age of 2, you can use screen time as long as it is related to the planned activities and that it meets educational goals. So I think that's important right there. If it's age appropriate. And here's the other big change. So you want to highlight 746-2207, C as in cat, number 3. All right? So 2207, C as in cat, number 3. Screen time it cannot exceed 1 hour. So it used to say 2 hours here. Now it cannot exceed 1 hour. Clap, 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 clap. All right. Number 4 is also something that's been added that is pretty big. If you are doing this, we don't do this in our programs, but you cannot use screen time during meal times, snack times, nap time, and rest times. So when the kids are eating or napping, you can't have that TV on or that tablet on or things like that, all right? Now, if they're just listening to music and you're playing music through the tablet, but they're not looking at the screen, they're just listening to music, that's okay, all right? That's okay. Screen time is when the child is actually looking at the screen, all right? So I've gotten that question a lot right there. All right. What if we have, I see a question on Facebook, what if we have a movie day during the summer? I believe your field trips to the local movie theater are now extinct. All right, because that would exceed your 1 hour of screen time. So that kind of answers that question right there. So long, movie theaters. All right, number 5 under 2207, C as in cat. Screen time cannot include violence or advertising. All right. It has to be turned off when not in use. And then this is a big one right here. So number 6, D as in dog is a big one. School-age children. Those of you that have school-age children doing virtual learning or they're doing their homework on a screen, that is not counted towards screen time. All right. There you go. I had someone talk about an aquarium using that aquarium app for lighting as long as the child is not looking at the screen. But if you're just using it for music or sound, so like there's ocean waves and seagulls, that should be fine. But if they're actually looking at the screen and they're looking at the fish and the octopus and the starfish and the jellyfish, yeah, that's not going to be allowed. All right. So there you go. All right. Well, sorry guys. A movie that is at a movie theater that is playing, if it's more than 1 hour, you've got a situation here with the standards. So, like I said, that's going to be extinct right now. All right. All right. Very good. We're kind of running close on time right here. Again, the helpful information under screen time has some really, really good stuff right there. My favorite part about the helpful information under screen time is that caregivers serve as role models and should not be utilizing digital media that is not directly involved in the care of the children. I love that. High five to licensing for putting that one in there. But we need to remember that we are role models, and if it's not allowed for the kids, it shouldn't be allowed for us either. All right. Now, it already addressed using tablets for assessments and sign in and out sheets and parent communication. That's okay. But as far as a teacher watching something, we need to make sure that we're following the standards all the way around. All right. So the field trips keep coming up. Sorry, guys, ladies and gentlemen, 1 hour a day. 1 hour a day. All right, the last thing that we need to talk about under the changes with the minimum standards is it goes in and just basically all of your basic care requirements. They made the adjustments to the wording, with the indoor and outdoor physical activities and outdoor time. Sorry, there's 2 things that we need to talk about still. 746.2805, so 746.2805. What types of discipline and guidance or punishment is prohibited? They've added a number 9 right here. Withholding active play or keeping a child inside as a consequence for behavior is now prohibited. All right? So you cannot take away a child's outside time and you cannot take away their physical activity as a form of punishment. All right? And again, I'm so happy with this rule. This is a big one. Now, it is going to tell you, okay, For those of you that are using the supervised separation or timeout that is appropriate for the child's age, so basically 1 minute per the child's age, where the child just kind of needs to sit out and have that moment to themselves, that is still allowed, okay? But it's going to go right back to what it says in the standards that is appropriate for the child's age, all right? I'm not a big believer in that, all right? Those of you that, kind of follow that, I encourage you to go watch my webinar on positive guidance and discipline. Anytime you impose a consequence, you need to ask yourself, what new skill is that consequence teaching? Is that consequence reasonable, related, and respectful? All right. And so, that timeout that some of y'all may use, it's not teaching a new skill. All right. You can still do that within the minimum standards. 1 minute per the child's age is the basic rule. But you cannot withhold the entire outdoor time. You cannot withhold all of the physical activity. Okay. I know that was a big concern for many of you, all right, many of you, okay? All right, now the last thing that we need to talk about is nutrition. Basically, I can make this really simple for y'all. The entire chapter on nutrition matches the CACFP food program guidelines now, all right? So those of you that are already on the food program, you got this, all right? There's not much more you have to do right here. Those of you that are not on the food program, you might need to beef it up a little bit, no pun intended, all right? Yes. So that's what it's going to tell you under 746-3301 is that, your snack and meal patterns basically complement the USDA CACFP food program. There is good. I want y'all to look at 746-3301. E is an elephant. All right, E is an elephant. You must serve enough food to allow children second servings from the vegetable, fruit, grain, and milk groups. All right. Now this is one area where we're now seeing child care regulations supersede the food program, all right, because there's really no criteria in the food program that says you have to allow seconds. They're now telling us under 3301E as an elephant that you must serve enough food to allow children second servings from the vegetable, fruit, grain, and milk groups, all right? Now, I saw an email the other day about people being concerned that this was going to increase your food cost. It might a little bit, but, I don't know, a little bit extra is probably not going to cost you too much. Thank you, Tiffany, Tiffany, thank you so much. I could have swore I saw that somewhere, and then I was looking down at my paper and I didn't see it, so I was like, I'm sticking to what I'm seeing on paper. So Tiffany is saying that under the helpful information box, that the 1 hour of screen time does not apply to field trips. Okay. Oh, you know what my concern is with that is it's under the helpful information box and not in the standards. We'll have to see what licensing's interpretation is going to be on that because they kind of contradict themselves because anything that's in helpful information is not technically a standard, but I think that just made a lot of people happy. All right, that just made a lot of people happy right there. All right, getting back on nutrition, again, making sure that you're serving enough that seconds are available. That one right there is pretty big. They've added under 746-3303 a wonderful chart for if your child is in care, however many hours, how many meals or snacks must you serve. So this was really good clarification for a lot of folks that are only open, 4 hours or 6 hours and what type of meal or snack needs to be served, all right? So very nice chart that they've added to 3303 that y'all can refer to. We don't really need to talk about it. It's pretty self-explanatory right there, all right? Same thing, and this was another very big concern that we had with Senate Bill 952 was with all of the changes in nutrition, what if you don't prepare food, but parents send it in? All right, and how would Senate Bill 952 affect programs that don't prepare the food, but it is sent in from home? All right, and David, we're on 746-3303. Thank you, everyone, for typing that in. So basically, under 3309, now we're on 3309, that yes, you can still have parents send in food, all right? But basically, it's the same thing that it's always said right there, that the program, you need to make sure it's in your policies, that the program is not responsible for the child's nutritional needs or values, that it's the parent sending in the food that is responsible for meeting those nutritional values. We were very concerned about how they were going to word that one, but it looks like you're safe. All right, you can look like you're safe. I see a question, can you have the children eat all of the veggies before serving the seconds of fruit, for example? I'm going to answer that question whether or not you're based on food program. All right, if you're participating in the food program, then you need to make sure you're serving all of that food and that those servings are available, to the children. Now, as far as offering seconds, like I said, food program doesn't really address seconds, so how you choose to do that in your program is going to be up to you. All right, just making sure that the food is available to the children and served to the children, that's going to be important. All right. I did just highlight, and I wanted to point out under 746-3311, and that is what are the requirements for a child that requires a special diet or does not want to eat the food that the center serves. All right. In order to serve a therapeutic or special diet, you need to have written permission from the child's healthcare professional or a consultant or a licensed dietitian. This is not anything new. All right, this has always been in here. They just kind of reworded a few things. They kind of clarified some of the wording. All right, and basically making sure that that stays on file, making sure that you give information to all of the employees that are preparing and serving the food. So that's important right there. If you have a child that has a special or therapeutic diet, you got to communicate with whoever's preparing the food and whoever's serving the food. Again, not a really big change right there. I just wanted to point that out right there. All right. So no, if the parents are providing the lunch and snacks, then it's going to be whatever the parent sends in. So you don't have any additional requirements right there. All right. Hey, I am so proud of all of you. I really thought I was going to wear out my sign today. And was expecting some COVID-related questions to come up, and you didn't do it not once. Y'all were so well behaved and you stayed on track. That's awesome. You did it. Good job. Good job. All right. So, like I said, y'all, that's not really much. All right. Probably the physical activity, the 90 minutes of physical activity is going to be your biggest operational change that you have with these new rules. I'm going to guess that most of you are already doing this, all right? You just need to make sure that it's added to your activity plan, all right? So, there you go. So, otherwise, yeah, pretty easy. All right, like I said, just a little preview. I'm going to schedule a webinar for next week to go over the new CDC guidelines that came out on Friday. Again, nothing really that's going to rock your world in there. If and when we do get some additional guidance from Health and Human Services with our emergency orders, we will obviously schedule a webinar to go over that if and when we get those. Otherwise, we're still under our emergency orders, so you just keep on doing what we've been doing for the past year. All right? You've got this. My sample policy on promoting indoor and outdoor physical activity is on my website. Y'all can download that. If it is helpful to you, you can do that. Again, it's going to tell you in there, and Make sure you talk to your local licensing rep about this, but you can prorate your outdoor time and physical activity time based on the number of hours you're open if you're a part-time program. But definitely you want to run that past your local licensing rep so that y'all can make sure your interpretations are on the same page. All right, so I'm going to always refer you to your local licensing rep to make sure you're on the same page anytime you're having to make those little tweaks right there. All right, so kind of the question about how do you prorate the outsource time, I'm going to refer you to your local licensing rep. It's mentioned in the helpful information boxes, but I'm going to refer you to your local licensing rep if you are only open part-time. So again, you can make sure you're on the same page. All right, your online worksheet is already posted on Facebook. So you can just refresh your screen and you can see that posting. If you're needing a certificate of completion for today's workshop, you can complete that online worksheet. If you're not needing a certificate, you're done. All right, I will also post the links for the online worksheet here in the chat screen here in just a moment. All right, thank you everyone for doing what you do and hanging in there for this past year. And I feel like we're in the home stretch, y'all. The light at the end of the tunnel is becoming brighter and brighter. Very, very optimistic about the remainder of the year. Reflect back and give yourself some credit for everything that you've been through over the past year and that you've made it and that we're still here. I don't think we celebrate ourselves enough. You've done a great job. Way to hang in there. That makes Snowvid and these licensing changes nothing. All right, when you look back at what we've been through over the last year, it's like, man, we got this. All right, we've got this. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all so much for participating, and I will see all of you very, very, very soon. So bye, everyone.